So I've been thinking a lot about plot structure lately, and I swear this will tie into K-pop, but the reason I've been doing that is because I find it interesting how in a traditional plot outline there's a designated space for a plot twist, which to me seems almost counterproductive. You would think you would want to be innovative in how you go about changing your entire story up. But if you think about it, it kind of makes sense. You can look at all of these ways of outlining your beat sheets or your hero's journey, and they're all pretty similar. It makes sense at the end of the day that there is a particularly effective way to tell a story in the same way there's a particularly effective way to write an essay or to write a song. I bring this up because the way songs are written is changing. We're seeing songs get shorter and shorter, but more importantly, in my opinion, bridges are disappearing. In my opinion, art is the way art is for a reason, at least usually. I think we have to consider that structure is important in many ways, in a literary sense, a cultural sense, an artistic sense. So I've been sort of questioning the psychology of why we like plot twists, bridges, and even just surprises in art. I have a bunch of points I want to run through that I think should be taken into consideration when these companies are working on different songs. I hope that makes sense, but let's just dive in. I think we need to start by going over the sympathetic nervous system. If you are unaware, the sympathetic nervous system is essentially your fight or flight response. It reacts to prepare your body when it detects some kind of threat. Now, some people have overactive sympathetic nervous systems, like myself, which is basically part of where anxiety comes from. But the body is meant to be prepared for threats, and this means that surprises, twists, what have you, will not wreak havoc on the body or mind. It makes sense that we are prepared for what might happen in the media, even if we were to perceive it as a threat, it all ends up being okay. That being said, we can feel a sense of uncanny. That is a feeling we get when something familiar becomes unfamiliar. So, the classic literary example is a disembodied hand. That I believe is tied into the idea of mirror neurons. When we see something or watch it occur, our mirror neurons activate, so we almost feel what someone might experience in order to understand said experience. We have enough of a disconnect from the consequences in real life as well as in the media we consume, but we do have a level of understanding that keeps things interesting. But you also must think about the actual limits of the advice to show and not tell. There's only so much direct emotion that can be conveyed, though that could be a good thing. I have literally thrown up while reading a book, and I did not want to feel any more connected to the plot than I already was. At the same time, the brain is very capable of change, and I think that is important as art can change with us. If you've ever heard of the advice to fake it until you make it, you might not be aware of the actual mechanics behind that. Your synaptic connections become stronger when they are activated more often, activating even more easily. So, the literal landscape of your brain and how it functions is very capable of change. It's neuroplastic, which I definitely did not understand as a kid when I was told to fake it until I made it. I also think that there are ways that people can build upon these foundations in order to make stories more effective. Yes, we understand what people or characters go through because of mirror neurons, but the neuroplastic brain is also rife for manipulating in order to build up tension. Have you ever gotten so angry at a character that you almost didn't understand it? It isn't you experiencing things, but the way your brain reacts, like with inferences or analysis, brings you in even more. And I was rereading a story recently that just made me so angry, but I was rereading it, so I knew what was coming and still reacted as if I was experiencing this for the first time. At some point, you would think context clues you missed initially would make you less surprised, but seeing the foundations of something reminds you of your initial experience with it and how crazy what you felt at the time was. Even if you don't love it, your synapses will love to make you think and continue to think. Memory is very complicated, but it should be noted that the encoding process can be overwhelmed with emotion. This sometimes creates flashbulb memories, which feel vivid and often mark us with legitimate trauma, but they might not be more accurate than any other memory. And a piece of art might not be literally traumatizing, but the effect of the emotionality is there, creating a complex psychological experience. We also process memories in sleep. Being well rested is not the only important function of sleep regarding memory. Part of the consolidation process happens while you are sleeping, so you might genuinely understand something better after sleeping. It makes sense that a song grows on you after you literally sleep on it. You can also consider the mere exposure effect, where you like things more as they become more and more familiar. And through habituation, we know you legitimately become less aware of certain things as you experience them more and more. I truly feel that there's a psychological basis for why songs need something changing in order to take full advantage of the way we react to things. The brain constantly changes. The brain is change, essentially. Stories need plot twists, songs need bridges.